Receiving schools, here is a reference for today's lesson. Your strand, substrand, outcome, your topic, materials, and your reference.
Good morning, 8Cs, receiving school students and teachers.
Good morning, Mr. Ma.
Thank you. You may sit down. All right, 8Cs and receiving students. In our previous lesson, I gave you homework, and also our activity. In the previous activity, you were to write an essay, or you were to choose one of these rights. All right. You were to choose from one of these rights, receiving students, and you were to write an essay, or write about it in a form of an essay. So I informed you that in our next lesson, we were going to read out your essays. All right. So can we have some? We'll have some volunteers, receiving students. Can we have some volunteers to read out your essays? Or, yeah, you can come up to the front, or you can go up to the front and read out your essays, right? So you have to write on any rights, okay? So can we have some volunteers now, please, class? All right, let's have Bronwyn. Maybe we'll have, two boys and we'll have 2 girls.
Well, I wrote about the right to freedom of speech and movement. Firstly, I'd like to define the word right. Rights are the things that people are entitled to. Having chosen to write about the right to freedom of speech and movement, I find it very suitable, as most Papua New Guineans do not have the chance to freely practice that particular right. From my point of view, we should be able to practice that right. However, we should practice that right responsibly and not to abuse the right.
Verbal abuse.
In Papua New Guinea, most citizens, especially female citizens and children, cannot or do not exercise that right. We as citizens of this democratic country should be given a time and opportunity to practice the right. The right to freedom of speech and movement is, from my point of view, one of the major contributing factors to abuse. In Papua New Guinean societies, men are normally the leaders. Looking at wealthy societies, men are also the key members or the leaders. Because men are the leaders, especially girls or women who are abused, physically abused, sexually abused, or verbally abused, cannot freely express what has happened to them. The victim then becomes to feel emotionally insecure, or are always insecure about the environment they live in. This is because of the lacking practice of the right to freedom of speech and movement. The right to freedom of speech and movement is very important. Everyone should be able to talk freely and to move freely. Freedom of movement or change of ideas or behavior is a gradual change in what people in a society do or think. We all should be given the opportunity to gradually change what we do or think in society. If we should be given a chance to go where we want to go and do what we want to do, in order to exercise the right, however, we should practice the right responsibly and we should not abuse the right. When I mean do not abuse the right, I mean it as in, if our parents allow us, children, to go to a certain place, for example, a birthday party, and we do not go there, or we go someplace where we take drugs or consume alcohol, without any of our parents' knowledge, we are abusing the right. We all as citizens should not abuse the right. We should practice the right responsibly. The right to freedom of speech and movement can only be used when we are going to do something that can benefit the people. When can we use the right? We can use the right when we want to express our feelings, when we want to go somewhere that we can do something that the community will agree with. Things that the community will agree with, or things that we can do by using the right, can be helping elderly people, taking care of children, attending camps, etc. Citizens, both male and female, should be able to attend religious activities, and they should be able to go to places out of urban areas. All democratic countries in their laws have the right to freedom of speech and movement. So why aren't people allowed to travel to foreign countries, places that aren't democratic? We should be able to go to other non-democratic countries and still practice the right. If we speak our minds at or in our own countries, we should be able to do that in another country. However, we should also practice the right responsibly in another country. To conclude, we all, the citizens of this country, have the right to freedom of speech and movement. However, we should not abuse the right. We should be thankful for the right and use it responsibly. Thank you.
Thank you, Bronwyn. All right. Can we have, let's have another one. Okay. Any other volunteers? Okay, Eileen.
I choose the topic right to freedom from cruel and inhuman treatment. In any country, people suffer from cruelty from other people, whether sexually, verbally, emotionally, or physically. People have human rights, but often it is disregarded, and in this essay, I am going to outline my rights to freedom in human treatment. Cruelty or abuse comes in 4 different kinds: physical abuse, verbal abuse, neglect abuse, or sexual abuse. And I believe the law of this country protects me from them. I have the freedom to speak my mind, emotions, and move around freely without being harassed. As a child, I have the right to grow up in a loving home that can protect me. This kind of abuses are serious offenses, and my security is guaranteed by the laws of this country. People do not have the right to abuse me in any way because they can be taken to court for it. When a person suffers from this cruelty, I can report the matters to a lot of people like the police, welfare officers, and people that I know that can handle the matter. Because I, as an individual, know that I am protected and have human rights to freedom, people should let me be who I am, free to do what I want and say, and no person should be allowed to treat me cruelly.
And you others, can you get ready, those boys?
My essay is about a right to life. Firstly, I want to introduce a right to life. Life is a gift many people take for granted, but we should accept this gift and meet it because it is a challenge. Today, the world population is increasing with high rates of crime and poverty. However, this must not be an excuse to deprive an individual's right to life. Secondly, is about the body part. Many children today are deprived for their rights, a right to living a happy life. In this case, children have been abandoned by their parents on streets, being deprived on their rights to education, love, and nutrition food. They end up finding for themselves and usually turn out to be criminals or became members of the street gangs. Adults are much of an issue since they are able to provide for themselves. Although this is believed to be true, some grow ups uh, some grow ups are also deprived of their rights to living a life. This may occur if they are made to feel inferior to someone else. And lastly, in close conclusion, whether someone is just a child or an adult, everybody has a right to life and must not be deprived of this right in any way. Instead, every living soul must respect each other and make it possible for everyone to have a right to life.
Okay, thank you, Umba. All right, he wrote about right to life, okay, if you heard. Right. All right, let's have one more boy quickly. All right, Charlie.
We as Papua New Guineans should be protected from such treatment and free from those who practice these activities. We should be self-conscious about a person's words or actions that contribute towards our rights. People must understand and take effectively the consequence to do such things to an innocent being. This right should be taught to the public so that they would understand and report those who mistreat others to the authorities. The victim mustn't be afraid to speak out or report any cruel or inhuman treatment that will affect him or her daily life. They have the right to be free from such treatment and actions. They have the ability to act independently and say or do what they want. Having this right protects us and also saves lives. Take, for example, being raped, violence against women, child abuse, assault, insult, and the list goes on. To conclude, Papua New Guinea is an independent country, and having this right protects us and helps us respect one another in our socialized community that we live in.
Okay, thank you, Charlie. And let's have any other volunteers who'd like to read. Okay, Nakowas.
I choose the topic rights to life. Every human beings, animals, and plants have the right to life because we are part of a creation. The existence of life must not be taken away unnecessarily through careless actions of others. Life itself was brought into the world and by only one person, and the person is God. He is the only one that gives us life and he can take it away. If he sees that life is misused, human beings are brought into the world by parents, and they are responsible for their upbringing to adulthood. Some should appeal to orphans and unprivileged children. Life is to human beings are very special and should not be misused. Or we should treat life with great care as in caring for yourself or others. Careless actions caused by some people can destroy life. Example, criminal activities is used caused by some people to destroy life. Animals were also brought into the world by God. In the same way we care for ourselves, we must do the same to animals or wildlife around us, in the nature and human environment around us. Animals also provide security. An example of an animal security is a dog. A dog guides you when you are asleep, and it's called a man's best friend. Animals' lives are sometimes taken away by cruel or by accident by nature. They are part of creation and have the right to exist in their own habits and their full span of life. We human beings should be responsible for their safety. Plants exist in some way and should be protected by all distractors such as logging, bushfires, and exploits. Plants don't move from one place to another to feed. Instead, they stay in one place and find or whatever they can come by. Some plants are as important as to be life as humans and animals. Rights to life is only for above mentioned by to everyone living and assumed, which exists in our space. We humans should carry out more exploration in space to discover more about them. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Nakowas. All right, we'll stop here with our essays, and at the end of the lesson, all right, I'll collect all your essays. Receiving teachers, you can also do that, collect your students' essays, and you can assess it. Okay, let's see. All right, our homework, which I gave to you, you were to define democracy and list 3 countries that are democratic countries. All right, so Did we define democracy? Define democracy, or what is democracy, right, class? Receiving students, please define democracy. Priscilla.
A system of government by the whole population, usually through elected representatives.
All right. Did anyone have any other answers? Or were your answers similar to Priscilla's? All your answers similar to Priscilla's answer? Or any answer that was that was completely different? No. I think all your answers are same, similar. Okay, receiving students. All right. List 3 countries that are democratic countries. All right. Number 1, Michael.
PNG.
Papua New Guinea, our country is a democratic country. Okay, next. Raymond.
Fiji.
Fiji. Bronwyn.
New Zealand.
New Zealand, yes. New Zealand, okay. What about Solomon Islands? Solomon Islands, okay. PNG. Okay. Papua New Guinea, we have the right to freedom of what? Election. We elect our members to represent us in parliament, right? Other countries, they don't go through elections. All right, good. Okay, so you defined the word democracy already. And let's have a look at democracy. No need for us to. Okay, our topic is on democracy. Class, quickly. You got that topic down, receiving students. All right, so I'll go. You already have it. You already have your answer there. Okay. Right, it means democracy is a country with a government that has been elected freely and equally by all its citizens. You get the meaning? You get this definition? Again, a country with a government that has been elected freely and equally by all its citizens. So our country, Papua New Guinea, is a democratic country, right? Who elected those members, the members in parliament? All right. Citizens of Papua New Guinea, okay? The citizens of this nation, all right, went through the election process for those members to be up there in parliament. People chose freely and equally, right, which person they wanted to be up in parliament. All right. Okay, let's look still on democracy. What are some features of democracy? What are some things that shows that a country is a democratic country? If you got the question clear, what are some things, okay, that shows that a country is a democratic country, or some of the features of democracy? Now, in our last year, we looked at, when we were looking at the textbook, the topic on government, we looked at this democracy. And if you can still remember or recall some of the features of democracy. Okay, number 1, free elections. Okay, one feature of democracy, free elections, meaning giving the people a chance to choose their leaders and express their opinions or their views on certain issues. So one feature of democracy is freedom of election, or free elections. People can vote freely. They can choose their leaders, right? So that's one feature of democracy, choosing their leaders. Okay, the next feature, majority rule and minority rights. Meaning in a democracy, a decision or a policy must be approved by a majority of voters, all right, before it may take effect. So if a decision is made, okay, or let's say if there's a decision, okay, or a law, right, the majority of the members must approve, okay, to that law, all right, and then it can take effect, or it can take place. All right, and the third one, remember political parties, all right, having more than one political party, you have the freedom of choosing which political party you would like to run the government. Remember, political parties are a group of people who have similar ideas or similar views, ideas about how a country should be run, okay? So in Papua New Guinea, we have many political parties, all right? So looking at these features of democracy, all right, free elections, freedom of choosing which leader you want to represent you in parliament, majority rule, decision is approved by majority of the members or voters, and then it takes effect. Political parties, you have many political parties to express their views or opinions. All right, 8Cs and receiving students, are you clear on this? All right, so you've copied this one down. Okay. All right, I'll give you just 10 minutes, class, for your activity, please. Your activity into your exercise books. I'd like you to drop this column here, this table, please. Okay, drop this table, receiving students. 2 columns, all right? Advantages and the disadvantages, okay? Advantages of democracy, right? What are the advantages of democracy? Having the freedom of election, free elections. What is an advantage of having many political parties? What are the disadvantages of democracy? All right? So quickly, I'd like you to do that. Drop your table into your exercise books, and you can discuss your ideas, please. Discuss your ideas in your groups. Discuss your ideas. Receiving students, please. What are some of the advantages and disadvantages of democracy? Please, if you are not sure, class, raise your hands, all right? If you're not sure with this activity, or if you're not sure with these points here, please raise your hands and you ask, and I'll come around and help. So you can discuss your ideas. You discuss your ideas with your friends or in your groups. Advantage. Think of one advantage. What's one advantage of democracy? Right? What's one disadvantage or bad thing about democracy? Please discuss your answers, discuss your ideas with your friends. Or if you're not sure, please put your hands up. You're not sure with the topic, or you're not sure with this. Remember what what democracy is? A country. What did we say democracy was? A country with a government that has been elected freely and equally by all its citizens. Okay? So what looking at the good side of it, good side of democracy, good side of having a government. I mean, yeah. Okay. Like for example, our country, a democratic government. What are the advantages or good thing about our country having a democratic government? Or are there any disadvantages of our country having a democratic government? So you look along that line. Come on, Andy. Andy, Raymond. What are we discussing? Our country being a democratic government. Okay. Anything good about our country being a democratic government? Advantage. Those members who stand like elections, they are called electorates. No, electorates are areas. Electorates are areas where a member, representing that area. Okay, it's an area, so they are called members. Just members, yeah, they are members, but they represent an electorate, or they look after an electorate, an area. Okay, but they are members. Yeah, members for those electorates. Anyone else who's not sure? Still thinking. Right, we can have some volunteers to come up and fill the table here on the advantages and disadvantages. Whatever you can think of, anything good about democracy, okay, anything bad, you write it up on the board. Think of anything relating to the issue democracy, right? What are some advantages, disadvantages of democracy? Right, anyone would like to come now and all right. Receiving students, you can go up to the board and complete the table. Think of any advantages of democracy, any disadvantages of democracy. Go up to the board and you can write it out. Okay, anyone? Quickly. Okay, any disadvantages? Quickly, if you have any disadvantages there, go up quickly and write because our time is up already. All right. Anyone else quickly? Okay, is that all? Any? Oops.
B-R-A-B.
Bribery?
Yeah.
B-R-I-B.
B-R-I-B.
B-E-R-Y. Bribery.
Bribe. B-E-R-Y.
Take out that V. Bribery. Yeah. Okay, good. Okay. Oh. Bribery. B-R-I-B-E-R-Y. Okay, let's just go quickly. Let's go through the advantages and disadvantages, good sides. Okay, democracy. One advantage, right? We have the freedom. It says freedom to express and exercise our rights. Right? If there's something something shouldn't be done or something wrong is done to you, you have the right. Okay, you have the right to do this or say no. Okay. So you can express and exercise your rights. All right. Freedom of choice. Okay, you have the freedom of choice. You can choose, right, which leader you would like. Okay, or which leader to vote for. You have a choice. There are more than one political parties who have different opinions on how to run the government. All right. You can vote freely and equally. Yeah. All right. You have that freedom of voting freely and equally. Okay? Yep. You can choose wisely. I think that's all. Disadvantages, citizens under the age of 18, they don't have the right to vote. I mean, they're not allowed to vote. Okay? Only citizens over the age of 18. 18 above, they have the right to vote. Okay? Political parties practice bribery in order to become representatives in the national government. Yes. Okay, some features of democracy are sometimes abused by people or citizens of the country. Conflicts between the candidates and the members of the parliament. Okay, any others? Rights are being sometimes misused. Okay, abuse rights, or people misuse the freedom of democracy. Okay, sometimes misuse. Okay, abuse rights, or people misuse the freedom of democracy. Okay, ladies are not allowed to walk around in the night. Okay, because if they walk around in the night, what happens? Okay, something happens to them. Where they have the right to walk around and do things freely, but situation doesn't allow them to walk around freely in the night. So you see, people misuse that freedom or abuse the rights of people. Okay. Okay, we'll stop here. HCs and receiving students. Maybe in our next lesson, if we can maybe go through this, if you are not too sure, you need more, okay, elaboration on this, we'll go through it in our next lesson. Okay, so we'll stop here. Don't forget your homework, class. Quickly copy this one down. Your homework, receiving students and 8Cs. You know, this is grade 8. Okay, so grade 8 level, you have a question here to go back home and work on it. You can ask your parents to help you out. Okay, receiving students, just copy this homework down. Yep. Okay. So if you finish your essays, I'm going to collect them after this. So once you finish copying your homework, all right, you finished? Okay. that brings us to the end of our lesson. Thank you, 8Cs, receiving students and teachers. Thank you all for listening. Okay, thank you. You can.
Teachers, here is your reference for the next lesson. Your strand, substrand, outcome, the topic, materials, and your reference.